Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you that don't know, 10 for the Chairman is where I take 10 questions from our generous subscribers and answer them with detail and specificity from the man himself as a way of saying thank you for supporting the game and also enabling us to do the amount of community feedback we do, which involves this video, involves Wingman's Hangar, involves Jump Point Magazine, and a bunch of the other sort of community and posting and blog stuff that we do. We essentially use the subscriber revenue to increase the information flow to the whole community, not just subscribers. So thank you all for that. And I also want to say thank you to SnugX for sending me this gift of The Blonde Knight of Germany, which is a book about Eric Hartmann, who was a top ace of World War II, which is pretty cool. I actually thought it may be interesting for you guys to know that I'm actually obviously a big fan of military aviation and just generally sort of military history. I actually had one of my film projects, actually the project I was going to direct after doing Wing Commander was a story that I based on sort of real fact, but also had some fictional stuff, so think of it sort of like Titanic, on the original Blonde Knight of Germany, which was Baron von Richthofen, the Red Knight. So I have a massive amount, a huge collection of books on everything in World War I aviation side, which was a pretty fascinating time. And also where most of modern air combat maneuvering techniques, fights sort of originated from a lot of the stuff that he and several of his compatriots developed then. And particularly fascinating reading, but it's fun, and you'll obviously, I'm sure, having played Wing Commander, have seen a lot of that World War II stuff all informed into it. So anyway, I thought that'd be fun, and also thought it'd be kind of fun to show you that there's a picture here of when I was we were scouting for the movie, which was called The American Night, which we were going to do with Warner Brothers in 2003, but then casting things pushed it back, and then Flyboys didn't do very well, so it got put on the back burner. But one day I'll make this movie. But this was, we scouted in Romania on locations for battlefields in a 1956 Alouette, and I have to tell you that it took some courage to get up in this thing, because I think the helicopter was significantly older than I was. But you know what? It flew really well. Anyway, there you go. All right, so on to 10 for the Chairman and the questions. So the first question comes from Dagger25, and he asks, command and control and radar scanning detection have both been mentioned as parts of the game. Will a spacecraft like the F-7CR Hornet tracker be able to relay its gathered info into a command and control ship? And the answer is yes. The tracker is actually meant to be able to, essentially has a much bigger and more powerful radar array, and should be able to pump information to, say, another ship and can receive it. So someone in a tracker, the idea would be they're sort of like command and control for a air group, and there will definitely be big capital ships that will have even bigger command and control, and you could have a Hornet tracker relay its information to a bigger ship as sort of like eyes and ears further out, or possibly in an asteroid field where the visibility isn't very good. And we're actually having a lot of fun on the capital ship build and design. I think you guys are going to be pretty blown away when we sort of go into that in detail, which we will do in the near future. It's something that the Foundry 42 guys are spearheading for us, since there's so much capital ship stuff in Squadron 42. Okay, on to the next question. Perry the Cynic asks, what happens when I fly to a Banner world? Will it have spaceports I can land at, space stations to dock at, etc.? Will they be alien, or do they have the same stores as human worlds? So the answer is yes, we definitely will have spaceports. We'll have, not the entire Banu area will be mapped out, although down the road it probably will be, but we'll definitely have Banner worlds you'll visit, you can land at, and they'll probably have some space stations. And yes, they will be different in architecture. So we're designing that on the Jean right now. We're starting to do it on the Banu. You can see the Banu Trader is a very sort of different look and feel than the human ships. And we'll be showing you some Jean stuff pretty soon. It'll be a very different look and feel than the human ships too. And we've got some Jean architecture and planet stuff that we've sort of been working more on that is very different than human, and we quite like it. So we're trying to make each one of the different races have a very sort of distinct feel and personality, so you sort of feel, okay, I'm in human space, I'm in Banu space, I'm in Jean space. So that's a long-winded version of yes. Next question. Dragofire asks, are the Class 4 turrets come as manned, or are they only remote controlled? Okay, so on the turrets, a Class 4 turret is a bigger remotely controlled turret. It is not a manned turret. A Class 5 turret and above are manned turrets. So on a Constellation is 2 Class 5 turrets. On the back of a Freelancer, there's a Class 5 turret. A Class 4 turret is essentially a weapon mount that has either a bigger gun or hard points for 2 smaller guns. So like a good example is the Hornet. The ball turret is a Class 4, and also the canard turret is a Class 4. A Class 2 mount is essentially a very small turret that can only fit sort of 1 smaller gun on. So an example of a Class 2 mount is the wing Gatlings on the Hornet, for instance. And a Class 1 is a fixed mount for a gun. So I hope that explains it to a certain extent. We have actually a bigger sort of setting that goes all the way up to Class 10 for including capital ship mounts, and those things include spinal weapons as well as much bigger turrets that are sort of for ship to ship and stuff like that. Okay, next question. Grisu, Grisu, so I probably mispronounced that, asks, will I be able to make some credits with a cruise line? Or will the public transportation system make such services obsolete? Yeah, I mean, we're actually looking for ways that people can sort of run their own businesses in the game. So, obviously taking cargo around, someone says, hey, take this piece of cargo, or even take this ship from here to here for me because I want it over on this planet, is something to do. And I think that actually we'd like to find a way that people could even transport people around in a way that makes sense. There will be big cruise liners and stuff, and there's a public transportation system that we've obviously already sort of promised and will be in there. But it would be nice to sort of have a version where someone could have a ship and take some people from one planet to another planet. I mean, partly it would be kind of fun to have someone running a cruise liner, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not. Maybe it's a bit over there, but it'd be like Murder on the Orient Express. Maybe people could get up to stuff on the cruise line. It'd be kind of fun. But yeah, no, we're going to try and have roles for people to do all sorts of jobs in it, and one of them would be transporting people. Okay, next question. Azim Mazza asks, how can a player who only has 2 or 3 hours a week available to play even hope to get a level of enjoyment out of Star Citizen when the competition will be playing 10 to 20 hours a week? So I think that's one of those questions that sort of thinks of Star Citizen as being like one play path as one way to win. And the way I'm designing the game and the way I'm thinking about the game is it isn't like that, and there are just different things you can do. So it sort of really depends on what you want to do and what is your definition of win. Because if you think about the real world, lots of people have different definitions of like what makes them a winner. Is it they've made lots of money? Is it they've helped lots of people? Is it that they're an amazing athlete? Or is they a great teacher? There's all these different definitions, and they can all be achieved at different levels. Some people achieve things they're happy with or greatness by themselves. Some people do it in a group. And I think that's kind of the model of Star Citizen, is that we're allowing things for you to do that you can, if you just want to play by yourself and not deal with other people, there will be a game experience that will be very much like sort of the old privateer freelancer experience that will feel like that, and you won't feel like you're pressured into being in a big group. But if you just want to play with a small group of your friends and go off and do stuff together, then you'll be able to do that too. Or if you want to play in a really big group or organization and try and sort of take over a part of space or build up a big sort of trading empire, you'll be able to do that. So I think the goal for us is to have lots of different things to do. And of course, like say on some of these bigger things, there'll always be roles for people, like a mining operation, right? Well, there's someone that probably wants to own and build a mining operation, but then there may be people that just like, hey, I just want to be a miner and earn a buck, and I'm there and I work for this corporation and do the mining. And so I think that's a better way to think of it. So it's not so much about 2 to 3 hours or 10 to 20 and you're competing against everyone else, because it's sort of what you want to do in the game. And I think you should be able to have fun with 2 to 3 hours, even if someone else is playing 10 to 20 hours. It's just you'll be doing kind of different things. You maybe won't be able to do as much stuff, but hey, that's the nature of beast. But I definitely don't think you'll be not having fun only playing for 2 or 3 hours. You just be doing potentially different stuff or less of it. Okay, hope that answers the question. Okay, so next question comes from Dream Rider. who asked me, you still have the complete order of battle for the Battle of Austerlitz in glorious 15mm hand-painted miniatures? How many men per figure? How many figures per regiment? And did you paint them all yourself? Not really a Star Citizen question, but obviously I can't put the entire order of battle, but yes, these are some of the miniatures. The rule set that I was having them built to was Empire 3, and it's been so long since I've actually played these because I essentially started putting this together after my ill-gotten gains on the very first Wing Commander, which is 24 years ago. And of course, whenever you're making games, you don't actually get to do as much game playing as you wanted to. But yeah, no, I had a whole, in my old Austin house, I had a whole room built up for battle with a whole bunch of geohex and all the rest of the stuff. And of course, I was also making games, so I didn't have as much time to paint everything. So most of this was actually painted in the UK and then shipped over to the US, although some of it was painted by me. Here is a small Hussar regiment, or a light cavalry French regiment, but we can show you the picture. But that was all done by me, which I think I'm quite enjoyed a long time ago, but it's also pretty painstaking. But yeah, so it sort of sits there, and one day I will have hopefully play the battle again, but I haven't managed to do it for at least 20 years, although I keep all my miniatures around, which is a small selection here that you can see. On to my next question is from Freelancer117, which asks, will Squadron 42 and Star Citizen have SMAA, which is Enhanced Subpixel Morphological Anti-Aliasing in the CryEngine? So I believe that we pretty much support all the anti-aliasing setups, so SMAA, I think FXMAA, and there's quite a few other ones, and I'm sure we'll be sort of supporting any new stuff that comes out as far as that goes. I mean, we've got a pretty big graphics team right now. We have 4 dedicated graphics engineers, and we're looking to hire another 2 to 3. My goal is actually to have more graphics engineers on Star Citizen than even Crytek has it in all of Crytek. I may not achieve that, but we're going to give it a good try. Yeah, I guess the answer is yes on that one. Okay, next question comes from Viper Alpha, who asks, I own an Idris and several Super Hornets. I want to base the Hornets full-time in my Idris. All ships are on the same account. Will there be a way to park and leave fighters in the fighter bay of the Idris? So the answer is yes. I mean, the Idris is designed to have a complement of some ships on it. I think sort of in Squadron 42, we sort of decided that it has an active complement of 2 ships. So in the military, it's 2 Hornets, and then it has a sort of backup spare Hornet in case one gets destroyed or all the rest of the stuff. And that's sort of the standard complement on a sort of a military patrol setup. So if you have, say, 2 Hornets, you definitely will be able to have them in your Idris. It's almost, think of it like big ships have their inventories and smaller ships have inventories, rooms have inventories, and so you essentially move your Hornet from the inventory in your hangar to the inventory in your Idris, which is basically the hangar there. So yes, you'll be able to do that. So you'll be well armed, and you should be able to hire either NPCs to fly it, or more preferably, because something like an Idris is really not designed to be a solo vehicle. You and your friends can have fun, and we're doing some, as I mentioned a little earlier in the show, talking about sort of the Hornet tracker and command and control ships. We're really doing some stuff on the bigger ships, the capital ships, that I'm super excited by. That's really going to push it. I mean, it's going to be like almost a whole game in itself running these big ships, and so I think you guys are really going to like that. Next question comes from Slacker. See, I see what you did there. Who asks, when are the Christmas decorations coming down? Yeah, I know, I've been pretty tardy on getting this Christmas decorations down considering it's February right now. I believe we're planning to do a hangar update in the next week or so, and it's a house cleaning update, and one of the things in the update will be bringing the Christmas decorations down. So very soon will be the answer there. All right, very final, last question here is from exotic.tofu, who asks, I see when the plan will be to have things added and updated over time. Does this include graphic updates as well? Yes, I mean, yes, obviously. So, the long-term plan is Star Citizen is never going to really stop being developed. It's never going to stop having content added to it. It's never going to stop having functionality added to it. So the way I look at it is, I mean, even just now, everyone having the hangar last year, we're going to have the dogfight in the near future here, and that's sort of even like the early versions of adding the functionality and content. But so kind of like our sort of projected path is, okay, we'll do the dogfight, the base dogfight, which is you'll be able to fly around in sort of single-seater fighter style stuff. And then we'll have another update that will bring in the multi-crewed ships, the bigger ships. And then we'll probably have some kind of update that will involve some first-person combat stuff. And then we'll have some update that will involve bringing all that together. And then some update involving the planet side. And so it's just sort of building the game over the time. And we won't change that philosophy even after the game is finished. Like, you can go around the full persistent universe with the initial set of planets, because we'll be adding new content and new functionality, and we'll also be continually sort of R&Ding new stuff. So ultimately, long term, I'd love to be able to have a way to go like essentially seamlessly down onto the planets, maybe have some more procedural generation, have a way to sort of build out stuff, and that's all stuff that we're actually doing R&D on now, not for the initial release, but just to get it sort of a process, evaluate what the issues are, and we're allowed to do that because you guys have been so generous in backing us that we have funds to sort of do some long-term research and development stuff. And the goal is that, we aren't going to stand free. Just the same way, like if you look at the Hornet now and you look at the Hornet when I did my original presentation in the tech demo, it's the Hornet's got much more detail because we're always constantly refining and updating stuff, and that will not stop once we're live. The goal is to make this the most sort of lived-in, immersive, detailed universe possible, and obviously we're not going to get it all for the first time the persistent universe is active for everyone, and so that'll just take time afterwards. And some of the features that even we've gotten on some of the stretch goals or some of the content won't drop right at the very beginning because it's just taking a lot of time to do all this stuff, but it will always go in. So hopefully you'll feel things are always moving forward and there's new stuff coming in, and especially as we sort of are scaling the team, which we're still doing, that'll all sort of snowball. So this year you're definitely going to see a lot more stuff than you saw last year, and I think then after that it'll be even more so. So hopefully that answered your question. Thank you all for listening. I hope you found the 10 for the Chairman interesting this week and enjoyed looking at my little miniatures and hearing about Richthofen. And again, thank you to SnugX for the book on the Blonde Knife Germany. And thank you to all subscribers out there for helping us improve and be able to afford a higher level of sort of community feedback and content. And I will see you next week. Thank you very much.